With practice and qualifying in the books, Brian and I are here to get you set for the Brickyard 400 as NASCAR attacks the Indy Motor Speedway. We'll talk our favorite DraftKings plays, guys to fade, guys to target, best values, all that good stuff. Also, look at the updated outright odds board. There has been a massive shift. Brian is very excited. Lucy and the football are getting ready to pull it out once again and make him very, very, very sad. We'll talk about all that and more on today's Angle of Pursuit podcast.
Ross Chastain used the wall all the way around this racetrack.
Logano has been the class of the field.
Check out the big brain on Brad.
Yeah, I need to change my underwear.
Brian Twining. It's gonna happen, maybe, potentially, could be. I'm enjoying the practice, then qualifying, then race. I know it's not as convenient to watch for a lot of people, but I like the ability to kind of get in after practice, especially if you have access to, say, Win the Race or iFantasy Race or one of the other smart websites with good models and good information. There's opportunity. My guy Ty Gibbs obviously didn't float or didn't crash quite as aggressively as Ty Reddick, but was as long as 27 at Circa. So you could get a decent number to have as kind of part of your card for the weekend. So I think that's been fun. But we're going to talk all things DraftKings. We'll kind of dive into some of our targets, some of our fades. The top of the board is pretty aggressive. There's a lot of really compelling names starting at or near the front. So we'll have some decisions to make. We'll have some, tough fades, easy guys to jump in on. So all that good stuff. But I guess before we dive into that, how's Vegas? How's Vegas treating you? Are you ready to talk some DraftKings?
Yeah, Vegas is doing great. It's only 111 today. It was 118 last weekend when I was here, so it's a little bit of a reprieve. And so far, so good. I had a profitable weekend thus far, heading into Sunday. And of course, I'm sitting on 12 and 15 to 1 on one of the now race favorites and your pole sitter, Tyler effing Reddick.
Yeah. I thought when Denny said it, there was no one who's going to touch him. And not only does Reddick get there, but Chase Elliott got there, and somebody else.
Well, I think Gibbs was close in the first round. Gibbs was really close to Denny, but yeah, look, we've seen this too many times before. I'm not celebrating anything at this moment, but Reddick, once again, like I've been saying for over a month now, this car is more than capable of winning. It's just the guy in the seat. Yeah, can the guy in the seat make it happen on Sunday? And we're gonna see, because he's got the rocket ship to do it.
Yeah. All right, let's look at the prices and make some decisions. So Hamlin starting second, 10-5. Larson starting fifth, 10-3. Ryan Blaney, last week's winner, starting seventh at 10K. Chase Elliott, 97. Christopher Bell, 18th at 95. Brad Keselowski, 93, starting 26. Martin Truex starting 14th, but actually isn't, because Truex initially passed Tech, but NASCAR didn't like something they did after passing and failed the next time. Not only does he have to drop to the rear, but he has to do a pass through after the first lap on Sunday. They have a crew member ejected, and we're going to lose pit stall selection. So a really shitty run there for old MTJ becomes a lot less compelling, especially on DraftKings.
Yep.
From a betting window aspect, maybe you can find some value in matchups if you want to take some gambles. You're going to get some nice long numbers, but man, it really feels like he has a long uphill climb. And we've seen with him, when things go poorly and he has to kind of deal with shenanigans, he gets a little more KFB than I think anyone wants to admit. And then another Hendrick guy, William Byron, starting fourth. So we have Elliott third, Byron fourth, Larson fifth. There's Hamlin, there's Blaney, there's and then we have Bell and Keselowski as kind of guys that are starting farther back that can move up. So I guess a lot of names, a lot of potential options. Who is jumping out to you as one of your most compelling targets from this range?
Well, I mean, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the two best drivers in the sport just as a whole, Denny Hamlin and
Tyler
Kyle
Reddick
Larson.
and Ty Gibbs.
No. They talked about it during qualifying again today. Denny Hamlin and his team are treating this race as one of the big, races in the NASCAR Cup Series, as one of the crown jewels. Denny has gone all out to try to do everything in their power to win this race. So I don't think you can ignore him at all when you're trying to build lineups. The one thing I will say is if we do get hot conditions, which is probably it's expected this weekend, that to me favors more the guys who are better in the slicker type conditions, that of Kyle Larson, Tyler Reddick, Christopher Bell, so that's something to keep in mind. And then when you think about it, would you rather save $200 and get 3 extra placements, or not save the $200 and take Denny, who's starting on the front row, who could potentially lead a ton of laps early in the race?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the way they talked about what Denny's doing this week, how serious it's like a playoff race, it's like a championship race. They're going all out, so it's hard to fade him. But we're doing that with matchups with Larson, so maybe there's a reason for both. Maybe there's a reason to skip over both and go straight to a Blaney or an Elliott or something else, because you're saving that. You're potentially getting off of salary. I think there's going to be some interesting decisions made, because not all these guys can be massively owned. So who's going to be the one that everyone kind of overlooks? Is it going to be Blaney because they're going to go down to Elliott? Is it going to be Byron because he's kind of like the last guy in the 9K range?
It's funny to say that, because or just prior to jumping on here and through a separate text with somebody, I think Ryan Blaney is kind of going underappreciated coming into this weekend. I mean, he looked fine in practice. He qualified inside the top 10, so that's good. And he's surrounded by guys who are going to take on a ton of ownership in Denny, Larson, Elliott, and then, as you mentioned, William Byron starting 4th, who's way cheaper. I think a lot of people are going to gravitate to him. So I think Blaney's the guy that is probably going to reap the rewards there. If you want to sneak him into a lineup, he's going to be rostered in probably less than 20% of lineups, and he's probably going to perform pretty damn well.
Yeah, I'm looking at projections right now. Blaney's just north of 20%, and then Byron's just south of 20%. I could see those numbers easily flipping based on the information that you just said, like kind of the pricing and the difference. Obviously, you're getting a few spots, but like almost $1,000, basically
you're saving $1,000. Yeah,
that's a lot. So especially as good as HMS looked, if you want to start with an Elliott or a Larson and then back it up with a Byron, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Exactly.
Where it's not as not as easy with a Blaney. So I could see him, depending on the contest and whatnot, it could be interesting. So we'll have some decisions to make. Bell and Keselowski both kind of starting further back. Are you interested in either of them? And if you are, does that potentially take you out of the running of maybe you don't get to, maybe you start with Bell and then you go down and get Reddick and you kind of do a Toyota thing, get your early dominator there? Or are you potentially interested in trying to squeeze in a couple of these like high 9s, low 10s guys?
Yeah, like the only thing that I'm hesitant about with Christopher Bell and Brad Keselowski is where they're starting. I do think that because of how strong they've been of late, and in particular, Christopher Bell just kind of being in the same camp as Denny Hamlin, Tyler Reddick, Ty Gibbs, all of them. I think he's going to garner a ton of roster percentage. And also, too, you can look at that, and Keselowski hasn't really performed in DK.
But he was really good last week, and Pocono is one of the best corollaries to what we're doing this week. So
exactly, like they're both going to garner a ton of attention from DFS players, and so I'm not going to say that I would be more apt to avoid them, but I'm looking at ways to not include them in lineups and still be a little bit safe, because I do think there's a good shot that either or both are possibly in an optimal lineup, with especially knowing Keselowski is one of the elite drivers when it comes to strategy racing and making up track position on pit road.
Yeah. Isn't there some a little bit of corollary between Charlotte and between where we are this week too?
Well, it's just overall speed. Like they talk about it, like Michigan being probably the second closest track, and yeah, we know Keselowski's been really good at Michigan too. So, and
Yeah, and he won the Coke 600 at Charlotte, so
yeah, like I think Keselowski's going to be fine. I like him a little bit more in the betting area, just because, like, obviously, I think he's going to perform well. He's going to be a high scorer, but he's going to be so heavily rostered. If you're playing in large pool GPPs, like you're going to have to deviate from guys that are going to be as popular as he is.
yeah, it's weird because like there's a lot of compelling options. So are people gonna either what's gonna happen is the ownership's gonna get spread out so evenly that it's not gonna really matter at the top. You
That's a
just
good
gotta
point.
find the right guys. Or it's the people are gonna go, I need those dominators. I can't afford to mess around with a Bell or a Keselowski. I'll come down here and grab a, Ross Chastain or Chris Buescher or whatever, Eric Jones maybe, and kind of figure out my movement points from there. So I'm really curious to see how people kind of end up falling on Sunday. I'm excited to see what when the race drops later and see if kind of check some notes and compare there as well. Let's talk the 8K range because I think there's some interesting names there. Obviously, your guy Reddick starting on the pole, 8,800. If you want an early dominator, you want to save a couple grand. I mean, that's definitely a way to go. Logano 86, Chris Buescher. If you want to do the RFK thing, but not do Keselowski and save some cash, you could do the Buescher thing. My guy Ty Gibbs starting 6th as a second dominator. Bowman starting 13th. If you think you can find that Hendrick magic, obviously was pretty solid last week. It's been kind of just running well, period. And then we have the Ross Chastain and Kyle Busch, two guys that nobody wants any part of. RCR is an absolute disaster. Trackhouse isn't much farther ahead.
Yeah.
I guess from this range, are you interested in Reddick as a potential dominator? And then who else is compelling from this range?
Yeah, my two favorite plays from this range are Tyler Reddick and Chris Buescher, and I don't think it's particularly close. I think just right along the lines with what I talked about with Brad Keselowski, Chris Buescher, I think, had a little bit of a better car than Brad did in practice on Friday, and then he was a little bit faster today in qualifying, and he's the one that is still sitting without a win. So this team is still going to be doing everything in their power to get him up front in some form or fashion, and then use strategy to try to maintain track position, which is exactly what they had done last week prior to that last caution coming out, which cost them a potential top 5 finish there. And so I think another similar type Sunday is in line for Chris Buescher. And then of course, Tyler Reddick, like obviously I would say he's much riskier than the guys that are 10K of Denny and Kyle Larson, but he has just as much speed as them. And you're kind of playing with fire here. You're playing chicken with the field, basically. Like, yeah, or are you going to play him too? Because if he hits and he wins the race and say he's the dominant car, you're probably going to get a leg up on the field because most people are going to avoid him, knowing how he's failed over the last month. I'm
curious to see what win the race ends up putting out. But what I'm looking at right now, he's about, he's a lot closer to the Hamlin Larson in terms of roster percentage than kind of the rest of the field. So he's potentially very popular. We'll see if that actually comes to fruition.
Well, and then just on that note too, like once again, another one of our favorite guys, Ryan over at ifantasyrace.com. Like if you're not subscribed to him or wintherace.info, like you're doing yourself a disservice. Not to give away his paid content, but Tyler Reddick is ranked very highly in his DFS rankings this week, just to give you an idea of how well these guys are expecting Red Dog to perform on Sunday.
Yeah. I mean, he's dominated practice, was the fastest car in qualifying. This is a good track for him. Like there's nothing that says you should fade him except for his inability to get to victory lane the past few weeks when he's been an incredible car and been really fast and all that stuff. So I think he makes a lot of sense. Obviously, you get a fat discount on him. If he was 9,800, I think people would be a lot less excited. But the fact that he's 8,800, he makes some sense. He's easy to kind of, if you want to do the Keselowski or the Christopher Bell or something or even just like a Blaney, you could do that. Or if you want to just start, below at 9K or below and kind of build some lineups, you could even get that part going. Anyone else from this range you want to make sure we hit on before we dip into the 7Ks?
I do like Ross Chastain a little bit this week, simply kind of just strategy based type of race for him. I think similar to what the RFK guys are going to do is what Trackhouse is going to be trying to do with Chastain here without a victory. And so, you got to look at guys who are aggressive when it comes to making decisions on pit road, and Chastain is one of them. And so I think him starting 28th, he's probably going to be rostered pretty high, but I think a top 10 is definitely a possibility for this car, not alone, or that's besides how aggressive they could get in strategy.
Yeah, I like him so much more from a betting perspective. Like, if I could get a top 10, if I could get him in matchups, if I can get him in groups, I think I'm in. But he scares me from I need all 6 drivers to work in unison and to score points. Like, could he score high? Sure, but like he is terrifying, and I don't know that he has like race winning or maybe even top 5 speed. I'm not sure how I feel about that. So it's like, at that point, is the reward or potential reward really worth the risk that I'm dealing with? I don't know. But we're going to have to find some guys that are cheaper that make lineups work, and it's surely not going to be Kyle Busch. So we'll have to figure that out. Let's dive into the next range and see if there's interesting options there. Bubba Wallace starting 17th. Austin Cindric starting 38th. Had issues in qualifying, but kind of like, he's not good. He's Austin Cindric, but like starting 38th at 7,600, I could get there. Same with Josh Berry, 75. Daniel Suarez, Eric Jones, Michael McDowell, and Noah Gragson round out the 7K range. I know Berry and Cindric are not like fun. I know Berry is a lot more compelling and a lot safer, and obviously started the Xfinity race by crashing in turn 1, so he'll obviously want to have a better day.
Thanks for that. Sunday, cashing a couple matchups, by the way.
What's that?
Thanks for him crashing because he cashed.
Oh yeah, shouts to the NASCAR betting preview show for shouting out the bet of the century of the year.
Carson Quapple.
Yeah, we'll go with Quapple. Basically cashed before even turn 1, so that doesn't suck. I guess, do you want Bubba? Do you have interest in Cindric? Is this just a range that's disgusting and you're just going to cross it all out? Where's your head at kind of with this whole group?
Well, I mean, Bubba's intriguing because I definitely think when you look at the Toyotas, they all have the race pace in order to get to the front. I mean, freaking John Hunter Nemechek made the damn second round of qualifying, for God's sake. So, clearly Toyotas have got a nice engine in them this weekend. And, if you're going to take a corollary and you look at Michigan, like Bubba Wallace has been really good at Michigan.
Yeah. He's good at fast tracks. He was good at Pocono last week and ended up sneaking out that top 10.
Exactly. And so I like him to potentially get there, but I am a little bit worried again. When you look at roster percentage, a lot of people are going to be thinking the same thing here. And, you factor in the risk versus reward with Wallace and the fact that they're probably going to be playing for points.
Yeah.
I think that his ceiling might be about a 10th. And so, you're looking at a fringe top 10 guy starting 17th at 7,800 when you can go further down the board and get guys that are starting further back for much cheaper that are going to get similar placement differential and pay out similarly.
I got a bird out here on my window, just like trying to get a preview of the pod to try and get ahead of those betting markets. He's like looking through the crack in my blinds, like staring at me, making all kinds of noise. But yeah, I'm with you on Wallace. Like a top 10 kind of feels like where he will finish, which is fine. And I think will be obviously useful, but is his ceiling that much higher? And like when I can go down and get a Cindric or get a Berry, which granted, I don't think either of them get to top 10, but if they're starting the back of the 30s, I think they can get 15 to 20, and that's pretty good. That's a lot of spots. Maybe they stay out while and try and lead a few laps while everyone else is pitting to try and gain track position. So you get a few laps led. There's obviously ways to score. So it'll be interesting when we're building lineups. But also, like, if you want to tell me that we're going to start with Tyler Reddick and we're going to put Christopher Bell in our lineup and we're going to put Bubba Wallace because we want to go in on the Toyotas who we think can be incredibly fast, I wouldn't fault you for doing that. And I think that could be something that makes sense. So he's kind of a find unique ways to use him. Don't just fire away like wholeheartedly. Let's talk 6K. Chase Briscoe, my guy, starting in the top 20. It's Chase Briscoe at the end of the day. Like, what is he really going to do? I
Go
bet
backwards
him to win because I'm a doofus, but home track. He's been spending time with family. Maybe he's a little too distracted. Who knows? Carson Hocevar starting 30th. AJ Allmendinger looked decent at moments in the Xfinity race. Obviously, different car, but getting more time on the track is always never a bad thing. 66. Gilliland 24th. Ricky Stenhouse starting the top 10. That's an easy cross off. Justin Haley's probably going to be one of the most, if not the most popular option on Sunday, and starting 35th, 6,200, super easy click. And then Austin Dillon. So like Stenhouse and Dillon seem like easy, just no thank yous, given where they're starting, even at a reduced price. Jimmy Johnson's the last of the 6K. Is there any world where you use Stenhouse or Austin Dillon?
No. I mean, I don't think there's a conversation to even be had to play these guys in DFS. You're literally rolling the dice that they would even be able to maintain this starting position as their finishing result, because there are definitely at least 15 cars better than both of these guys on Sunday. And so, I think you're just hoping that they mitigate the loss if you do play them. And I think that you'd be much better served to take a look at their betting odds, because I do think throwing a dart on a top 10, maybe on one of these guys, may be fun. But in DFS, I just don't see a world where you could benefit from either of them based on where they're starting. Because if you're going to tell me that Ricky Stenhouse or Austin Dillon finish mid-teens or 20th, sure, I would expect that. But in the same conversation, if you told me that Justin Haley also finished it right in that range, I would be it'd be less surprising, and you're getting 15 plus placement points out of that. So yeah, I just don't see a reason to go to them when you have Justin Haley sitting right there starting pretty much at the back of the field.
Yeah, he's incredibly compelling. Gilliland, I think, is probably okay too. He's a little farther forward, but 6,500 should be fine. Should make sense. I feel a lot better about the back of the field this year or this week. But maybe that's a bad thing. Maybe I'm getting a little too optimistic comfortable with some of these crappy names because they definitely don't deserve it when they're priced down here.
Yeah, and I do think, with Gilliland in mind, when you start to look at Front Row Motorsports, if you listen to Michael McDowell's interview, I think it was post-race Sunday or maybe it was Monday with somebody, he basically said that the team is sharing maybe 10% of the data with him, which basically the quiet quitting has already begun and it's almost full force. And so Todd Gilliland is basically getting all of the resources from Front Row Motorsports right now. And so all of their stuff is going into having him be successful going into 2025. So I definitely think this is the time to take advantage of that. And I do think that he's a decent play because of where he's starting and the potential.
Yeah, and we've seen this happen. We saw when Eric Jones was leaving to go to Legacy. We've seen it with other drivers making the switch. So, it's not a new thing. It's something we can definitely we have examples of it happening. Let's talk 5K. Nemechek, Ryan Preece, Corey LaJoie, Zane Smith, Ty Dillon, Daniel Hemrick, Harrison Burton, Cody Ware, BJ McLeod. Obviously super disgusting. Nobody is really fun there. Harrison Burton starting 16th. No, thank you.
No.
John Hunter looked pretty fast, but like it's still John Hunter and he's starting in the top 10. Like, what's the best he's
absolutely
gonna do?
Not.
So I guess, like, are you doing everything in your power to stay out of the 5K range, or is there something potentially to do here?
Look, I don't hate Daniel Hemrick. It's kind of right along the lines of Justin Haley. Like, he's just had a knack for staying in races of late and figuring out a way to finish decent for that car, 20th or so. So I think you get some placement points there. And then I don't know. I guess Zane Smith is intriguing because the last couple of weeks he's actually looked like a competent Cup Series driver. And so, I think you're looking at a guy that
he started 9th and then finished 29th.
Well, yeah, he had some issues at the end there, but during the race he actually looked decent. So,
yeah,
I don't hate him, but obviously it's going to be hard to get to any of these guys. And I just got to say, I feel so bad for BJ McLeod selling his charter and then going and racing the 66 car, which is 3 seconds off, like the second slowest car.
Is that bad? That seems bad.
I don't even know how the hell the NASCAR allows this team to field an entry each week.
No. It's like Talladega Nights when that guy like gets out of his car and he's like eating hot dogs mid race and Ricky Bobby's like, come on, dude, you got to go, and he's like, it's not that big of a deal. Like BJ, I don't understand. Like I obviously he's been able to make the charter work and whatnot, but it's weird. Speaking of new charters, shouts to Haas and Cole Custer back in NASCAR. Be interesting to see what he can do. Obviously won today. Or no, he lost today. He should have won today.
Yeah, he finished second.
But yeah, it'll be interesting to see him back in the Cup. We know he was a favorite when we started doing this a couple years ago, and then obviously he's been stuck in Xfinity for a while. So, shall we build a couple lineups, Brian?
Let's do it.
Okay. The board is yours. I will follow your lead for this one. Who is the first click going into the lineup?
William Byron. I'm going to surprise you.
Oh, wow. That was like, honestly, the last name I expected to say. If we're going to do the Hendrick thing, Kyle Larson's going to be fast. He's going to win the race, and we'll take him.
All right. I don't hate that.
We'll double Hendrick it up. That puts us in.
Easy. Justin Haley here, because we need a guy that's going from the backs.
Give me the discount.
Cheap.
Give me the discount. The question becomes, do we want to mess around in this like 7-8K range, or do we want to get gross, but that might open up something? So I know Chris Buescher is an easy click. I'm going to force Josh Berry. Welcome to the lineup.
Oh, Lordy. All right. We got decent movement here.
I think we need some like middle tier now.
All right. We're going to stick with the Chevy trend that we started with. We're going to go a little bit of Watermelon Man here, starting 28th.
Okay.
I like the aggressiveness and strategy to come and play here.
I mean,
I was just going to say, that makes it an easy click, essentially, right there.
My question to you is, Larson can win, Byron can win, Chastain can win, question mark?
If Chastain gets track position, he's winning. Like, oh yeah, if either Chastain or Buescher are up front with a couple laps to go, good luck trying to pass them, because I think that both of them at this point in this season, especially with what happened to Buescher, can't remember what race it was when Reddick essentially wrecked him.
Yeah.
Since that happened to Buescher, I think he's more inclined now to race a little bit more aggressive and prevent somebody from getting past him by using the car. So yeah, if either of those four guys won the race, it would not surprise me. Okay.
I love it. That was probably too easy. The weeks where it's too easy is the weeks that we have a train wreck of a lineup, but I like the board this week, but maybe we got a little confidence from our big week last week. Okay, I'm gonna take the lead this lineup, and I'm gonna go Christopher Bell, who we expect to move forward, make some noise, and we're gonna go Tyler Reddick.
Love it.
That gives us lots of flexibility. We can dive down and kind of figure out how we want to attack it to figure out what we don't have left. I don't hate Gilliland. I don't hate Haley again. I know it's scary to go multiple lineups, but at some point that guy's too good of a deal.
Man, I'm so tempted for you to go back to the top
Okay.
and us put
Push it.
Denny in
Push
this
it.
lineup.
Push it.
Oh, you know what though? Man, having the guys starting on the front row,
Yeah.
that seems terrifying, especially
I
with what
also
happened in Phoenix.
yeah, maybe it's stupid, but I like the idea of doing a Reddick thing and then not using Hamlin or Larson as like Reddick's going to be the car you need to dominate the laps and win the race.
All right. Okay, so if we're gonna do that, I think Blaney. I don't know what it is, but I just have a feeling that he's going to be able to maintain. And like everybody else, I think he's got a good shot to win. Like if he can get to the front, he can win.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to do it. Austin Cindric, welcome to the squad.
Oh, that is just disgusting.
Penske. I'm not asking him to win the race or even get a top 10, but I think he can get 15, 17, something like that, and that's 20 spots. Maybe he leads a couple laps phantomly. I think he's compelling. I think he showed enough speed where if he qualified, he would have been way farther ahead and a lot less compelling from DraftKings perspective. But I think because we get the discount, we're good.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just a little worried, like, because he's back with the squirrels.
He is King Squirrel. He's Austin.
I mean, he is a squirrel himself, so
yeah. So like he's used to running around with those nut jobs. All right, we got 2 spots. We got about 7K per driver. We can get gross and grab like a 5 or 6K and then fly up. We can just grab 2 7K guys. What are your
All right, let's do Hamrick here and go for another placement. I know. Yeah, it's disgusting, but you got to do what you got to do here.
And that gets us a lot of options. I mean, do we want to do all 3 Penske guys? That worked pretty well last week. I know you hate Joey Logano.
I'm not high on Logano's potential to like win or anything. I mean, he's similar to Buescher and Chastain in regards to their aggressiveness and strategy, but
all right, Buescher, Chastain.
Look, if we want to get really gross, I know he sucks ass, and I'm not expecting him to be good, but how many people do you think are going to play Kyle Busch this week?
Probably more than you want to admit just because of his name, but I'm like, I don't think he's going to be good, but if there's a spot to use him, I think this is it.
Yeah, like I don't think you could get any more pessimistic about a guy than people are right now on Kyle Busch, which is going to detract a lot of people that would normally play him because of where he's starting. So although he's probably still going to be in that 30 percentile, I would kind of guess, just guess based on his starting position, it's probably much less than what you would normally see out of this when he's starting that far back, and he's probably closer to 50.
And we want to stick with Hemrick and not go up to a Austin Dillon, Jimmy Johnson, John Hunter.
No, hell no.
Okay.
Jimmy Johnson, he hasn't even figured out the next gen car yet.
Yeah, that made me giggle when they were talking about that.
Yeah, he's like, I'm still learning the car.
Maybe it's time to retire, Jimmy.
Yeah.
These legends, man, they do not want to let it go. They hang on way too long.
That they do.
All right, third and final lineup. We have a Larson Byron lineup. We have a Toyota lineup without Denny. Do we want to do the Denny thing on this one?
Yeah, I think we got to do
have
Denny.
Something else you want to start with?
No, we got to have Denny in a lineup for sure.
Do you want to do similar to our Reddick Bell start? We do Hamlin Bell, or do you want to?
What if we did Denny Keselowski?
Well, if we do Denny Keselowski, we're doing Buescher too, which I'm fine with.
Then we're gonna need a squirrel. Like we're gonna need a.
Yeah, I figure we would. I mean, I'm fine kicking Buescher out if there's some 7K options that make it compelling, but do you have any interest in Bubba at 78?
I mean, he's risky, but I think there's plenty of safeness involved with Keselowski and Buescher moving up, and then Denny just kind of being there at the end and potentially
Do we
bleeding past.
think Bubba can top 5 or maybe even top 3?
I mean, that's pushing it. Like,
Yeah, and then I think let's try and see if we can do something else.
it honestly, it would require everything going their way in terms of cautions and like pitch strategy and all that type of stuff. And then of course them not making a mistake on pit road.
Yeah. Mi amigo, do you have any interest in double Trackhouse? Eric Jones, like we like him at fast tracks. We like him at Michigan. Started 23rd and got 14th last week. Like obviously he's not like fun.
I don't hate him, but I think he's priced up though. Like, okay, if you were to just looking in a vacuum, who do you think has more potential at fast tracks right now when you remove the possibility of wrecking? Eric Jones or Carson Hocevar?
Oh, Eric Jones, not even close. Even if you keep in the possibility of wrecking,
I would definitely take Hocevar in terms of speed over Jones right now. Okay, who do you think safer, Eric Jones or Todd Gilliland? $800 cheaper. It's only 4 positions or 5 positions.
Why not both?
That is extremely gross, but why not?
We're going to have to get gross.
But and then I think this is where you add Bubba.
Yeah.
If you want
to. Yeah. I think it makes too much. It ended up working out. We were debating him and we ended up getting there. So I'm happy. I like our lineups. So I'm sure they'll go horribly tomorrow, but Larson, Byron, Buescher, Chastain, Barry, Justin Haley, Blaney, Bell, Reddick, Kyle Busch, Austin Cindric, Daniel Hemrick, Denny Hamlin, Brad Keselowski, Chris Buescher, Bubba Wallace, Eric Jones, and Todd Gilliland. I think we did good. I think we made some lineups. I think we saved some salary. I think we were diverse in our lineups. I think we got some potential here for sure.
Yeah, no, it's going to be an interesting week to see how the cautions fall because I think that's going to play a major role.
Yeah, like it's not going to be as messy as the Xfinity race, right?
Shit. Cup Series drivers may say, "Hold my beer." Like,
yeah, I know. That's what I'm worried about.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk betting. The current card, I have Ty Gibbs at 18. He's like 16 now. You can get it. I got some 20 something yesterday. Chase Briscoe at 200 for nothing. Chase Briscoe top 4 at 70-1 for nothing. Ty Gibbs top Toyota. I'm curious to see what that gets reposted at. Gibbs over Logano. Pretty happy with that one. Barry over Kyle Busch and Ross over Kyle Busch. Like I said, I don't think Kyle Busch is having a good day tomorrow, but if you're gonna throw him in a lineup, I think there could be some interesting potential there. Brian has Tyler Reddick at 13 because he likes winning, except for he never wins. Toyota to win the race at plus 135. Gibbs over Logano and Chastain over Busch is where we sit right now. Once again, the full betting card will be on our Substack, aoppodcast.substack.com. Once again, aoppodcast.substack.com, completely free newsletter. We put them out every race day, and it has our picks. It has 3 bets usually per person, 3 of our favorite DraftKings picks. It has our full betting card. It has links to the episode. It has other cool stuff if we find cool stuff to post. If there's if there's stuff you guys want to see in there every week, let us know down in the comments. You can send us a DM on Twitter, all that good stuff. Let's talk odds. So we'll start with Caesars, but I also have at BetMGM. I have Sports Superbook. I have a bunch of different, so we'll kind of bounce around. Denny Hamlin, Tyler Reddick, Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, and William Byron all inside 10-1. At this point, Brian Twining, do you have any interest in actually betting any of these numbers?
Kyle Larson. It's hard for me to fathom him going off at anything less than the favorite or the second shortest odds at a race.
Yeah, because it's not like he wasn't good.
Yeah, and I think that
Superbook broke.
Superbook closed shop at everywhere outside of
Oh,
Vegas.
so it's like that already happened.
Yeah, so
Oh.
I'm assuming anybody who had pending bets at Superbook, they probably just gave that back to you, or I don't even know if they're going to cash those. But for our purposes, like obviously, like I'm in Vegas, so I still have Superbook, but I won't reference Superbook odds on here
That's
anymore.
crazy.
But just going back to Larson, like how do you not like Larson everywhere we go? That's you're getting a discount here at 6-1 when normally he's going off at 4.5. So I'm going to add Larson, and then I think I'm going to keep it at that. Now I will, full disclosure, my actual betting card here in Vegas is many times larger than what I give out here on the show, simply because
we try and keep it somewhat hemmed in, and we try to give you like our actual like. There's ways to play it where you get kind of exposure to other guys that maybe you wouldn't normally get exposure to, just to
and that's
kind of
normally
balance out and give yourself a chance at a winning day. But we're trying to give you our favorite picks. So it looks like plus 550 might be the best number you can get. Is there still there's a 6 at Caesars.
6, yeah.
I
think he's 650. Yeah. Oh, that got shorter. Yeah, he was 650 at FanDuel for quite a bit.
Yeah, shouts to FanDuel. I know we've been doing that every week, dude, but like
they have really upped their game.
No. You can get he's 6 now. Let me see. Yeah, no, it looks like 6 the best price you can get. I don't hate that. I think it makes some sense. I grabbed some Elliott at 12 just because I thought it was interesting. He ended up looking really good in qualifying, so in practice. So I'm happy to have that. I wish I had gotten some Byron at like he was 14 or 16, depending on where you looked. Should we be firing on Blaney at 12? I know back-to-back wins always make me a little queasy. Like I don't think it's super realistic. Maybe that's just me being silly. But
hey, Alex Bowman almost ran down YRB last week for back-to-back W's. So
that's true.
Blaney, he's the one current Ford that I'm actually thinking about adding personally, just because I can get him at 14 here in Vegas. And like I think that's a good number on a guy with a championship pedigree who's really hitting his stride. He looked incredible last week. He looked fine so far, Friday and Saturday. And we know how good he is at flat tracks, which I think Indy kind of qualifies as that. I mean, it's much faster, but Indy definitely qualifies as a flat track, in my opinion. So, I don't hate the 12 number, but obviously, like if I get 14, I much prefer that.
Yeah. I think you need to get north of 10 though. I think 12 or better.
Oh yeah.
In order to get involved, because there is some like 10s and 9s and stuff, and like I don't want any part of that. But I think if you can get 12, 14, or what'd you say, Brian, 16?
14 is the best number here.
I think that makes sense. Remember, Brad Martin Truex is it has to start in the back and do a pass through penalty. So if you want to bet him, just bet him live. You'll get a much better number.
Well, I think he's also 25 at Circa here in Vegas. So
yeah, that tells you so much more where he needs to be.
Exactly.
All right, I am going. So Brad Keselowski 16, Ty Gibbs 16, Joey Logano 18. Do you have any interest in adding those three? Are you with me on Gibbs if you don't have exposure to him, or do you want to see, or just put your money elsewhere before you? I mean, you get 18 at FanDuel.
I don't hate Gibbs, but it's just hard for me to say that after watching practice and qualifying that he's going to be able to pull with Larson, Reddick, Hamlin, Elliott, Byron. Like there's just so many other cars that are in front of him that he would have to pass in order to win his first race. And unlike last week or at Chicago, I don't think he's quite at that level this week. Like, I don't think he's a top 3 car in terms of just speed.
Yeah. Adding a couple Chris's to my betting card. I don't usually love to get super exposed to where's it BetMGM to a ton of outrights, but the only true outright I feel like I have is Ty Gibbs. Briscoe is more of just like a dart.
Oh yeah, that's a fun dart.
Nothing price, but I'm adding Chris Bell, who is 22 at Caesars, and I'm adding Chris Buescher, who is 25 at BetMGM.
Ooh, I like both
I
of those.
will say shop these because the numbers this week are pretty wild. Like, Chris Bell is 18 at BetMGM. He is 15 at FanDuel. I've seen 14s, but you can also get him at 22. So shop it. Get yourself the best number because betting racing is hard. Cars crash, wheels come off, and all kinds of stuff. Don't squeeze yourself. Like, if it's all you can get and you really want exposure, like, I'm not going to fault you, but
that is quite possibly the understatement of the year that you just said. Betting racing is hard.
Yeah. But I think both of them are compelling, and I think both have real shots to win the race. And I think you're getting paid out well if you can get north of 20 on both. So,
oh yeah,
I want Bell. Like, I'm fine with like an 18, but I prefer north of 20. And then Buescher, I probably want at least 22 because that's pretty widely available. I'm guessing DraftKings doesn't have odds yet, but you can get Buescher at 22 at FanDuel. You can get 25 at BetMGM, and you can get 22 at Caesars. So if you can't, you find access to get a good number. Any of these, like, kind of longer ones you're looking at, Alex Bowman, Bubba Wallace, Ross, like, anybody interesting?
The fact that Caesars still has Kyle Busch priced at 30 is, to me, the largest missed price driver of the weekend. I don't understand how anybody could see what that car has done.
Yeah.
Pretty much since the beginning of this season and expect that they're going to even be competitive. And so that is a number that you're not getting anywhere near. Most prices on these guys are not good. I mean, just for reference point, like Circa, which is largely considered one of the sharpest books in Las Vegas, they have Ross Chastain listed at 80-1. Kyle Busch is 100-1. So do not bet this 30 or 35 or 37 or 40 or even 50 for that matter on Kyle Busch, because that car is absolute garbage. You're better off just avoiding him or maybe taking a dart on a top 5 or top 10, which are still getting shorted on, by the way.
Yeah. And it's really funny because there is some like matchups and some other like markets where you can like kind of look at the prices of these guys.
Yeah.
And they're all over the board. Like, you'll get Ross is like a big favorite to KFB in a matchup, but then their outright prices, KFB's shorter, but then you'll look at top 10 markets and they're basically the same. So it's just like you shop it, look for the best value, find the number that makes the most sense. Hell, if you can find a way to get involved on either side and guarantee you to make some money, that's another way you could get involved too. So, in terms of outrights, Brian, is there anyone else you're potentially interested in? I mean, I have the Briscoe at the long number. Obviously, he's still pretty aggressive. I don't know that I'm necessarily recommending that, but like, any outrights that are just sort of interesting to you that you're kind of pondering, or you're interested if you can get a better number, or is it kind of your card's finding its form and gonna kind of leave it where it sits?
Yeah, like I think when you look at BetMGM prices, I'm not fully avoiding a guy like Alex Bowman. I think he's intriguing just because he's in an HMS car and you're getting a pretty long number on a guy driving elite equipment. And so I wouldn't hate going to him, but I definitely think it's more of like, you kind of want to wait and see how this transpires over the first stage, or maybe a little bit after stage 1. Very similar to last week where, it was clear early on that Ryan Blaney had a race winning type of car. And I think the same could be said this weekend, where you're going to be able to see who's able to shove, who kind of falls off after you get in about 10 laps into a tire run. So, I think it's too early to start playing around with these guys in this range. Even a guy like Logano, for instance, because we've seen it with him where he could be an absolute dumpster fire and still wind up winning, but you're going to get a decent number in the race because he's probably going to be running mid-teens the whole day. And then they're going to hit the caution right, like perfect. And then he's going to find track position and he's going to be difficult to pass. So
Yeah.
I think he's somebody you wait and then you take a number that's going to be similar to this, by the way, live, because he's probably going to float out to about 40 once the race starts and they realize that his car sucks over the long run. So I'm not betting any of these guys right now.
Yep, I'm with you. I think the longer Blaney number makes sense, but I think leave a bullet or two live to fire, because I think you could find yourself in a nice spot like we saw last week with Blaney. He was 14, 16 at a few places when he's starting to look really, really good. And if you took that shot, then obviously you ended up paying out. So Brian, let's take a look at our card. Let's talk about through our bets, and then we'll give people our thoughts as we get out of here. So I have Ty Gibbs from pre-practice and qualifying at 18. I'm fine with 16. I personally got 16. Obviously there was 20 somethings sitting between qualifying and between practice and qualifying, but I mean, if anything longer than 15, I think you're pretty good. And then I added the Bell at 22 and the Busher at 25. I think they both make a ton of sense north of 20. I think, I don't think I'll add anyone else. I don't hate Brian's Kyle Larson at 6-1. I think that makes sense. I don't think taking Hamlin is crazy. It's going to be short, but it's probably a decent enough bet if you really want to just grab yourself a favor and have a really good chance. I don't know. I think they all make some sense. Brian has Reddick to win, Toyota to win, Gibbs over Logano, Chastain over Busch, and then added the Larson. As I mentioned, our full betting card will be on the Substack, AOP podcast at substack.com. You could subscribe for free and get that in your email inbox every race day. Brian Twining, this was fun. Good to catch up. Good to talk all things NASCAR as we get people set for the Brickyard 400. Anything else you're excited about? Names you're targeting, odds that you're considering that they may potentially see in the newsletter when it comes out Sunday morning?
Yeah, I think Ryan Blaney is going to be really good, just based on what we've seen out of him recently. So I think there's some decent opportunities with him and some matchups that I've seen pop up here in Vegas. Obviously, I got to shop the numbers that are available in other, like the more widely available markets, to see if there's any stuff that I like. But yeah, I think Blaney's somebody I have my eye on. The Christopher Bell number at 25, or 22, that's awesome. I grabbed 15 yesterday when FanDuel had their odds open during practice. So I'm kind of disappointed I didn't wait, but Christopher Bell is somebody that, despite him not showing elite speed in either practice or qualifying, I think he's still going to be good on Sunday. We've seen it with him. He's the only Cup driver in the series that's made the Final Four 2 years in a row. So I think that kind of tells you how good of a team they can be. And so I have confidence in Christopher Bell as well. So that's something to keep an eye on, but obviously a little bit short right now as I do a little bit of diving on value. There is one more that I will add for the card here. It's only available in Vegas, but I wanted to put it on here. Kyle Larson plus 130 in a matchup against Denny Hamlin. How the two best drivers in the sport are not priced at minus 110 both ways at a sportsbook is beyond me. Because if we go into tomorrow and Kyle Larson is the best car on track, is anybody going to be surprised by that one bit? No. And even if he's not, if he's anywhere near Denny at the end, it's going to be a battle. I don't think Denny's going to run away from this. I think Kyle Larson is 1B to Denny's 1A so far this year. So You're going to give me plus 130 in a matchup with Kyle Larson, I'm going to take that every day.
Yeah, I grabbed some of that before practice and qualifying. There's still numbers where you can get Larson as a favorite. So if you want to add to a Larson outright position, if you want to just grab that matchup and expect the Toyotas to win, but Larson beats Denny, there's some ways to get involved. So I think that's a good shout as well. For Brian Twining, I'm Kyle Robert. Enjoy the race. Let's cash some tickets. Let's hit some winners on DraftKings. And we'll be back probably not next week because we're on the bye week. So we'll figure out a recording schedule. You can always let us know on Twitter if there's something you would like to see. But I will, obviously keep everyone up to date. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel if you want to get the latest content. But yeah, we have the Olympic break, so we got a couple weeks off. So enjoy it after this week. We get a fun race, then we get a couple weeks off. Get involved in golf or baseball or just take some time, whatever you want to do. We'll be back to break everything down post break. We'll talk. Oh, I should probably pull up this. So we'll talk to you guys next time.